Commander Velthar stood before the massive doors of the High Council chamber. His 4 arms shook slightly as he held the datapad containing his report. In his 300 years of service to the Galactic Empire, he had never felt fear like this. The doors opened with a soft hiss. Inside, 12 alien beings sat on floating platforms arranged in a circle. These were the rulers of the Empire that controlled half the galaxy. Each one represented a different species that had joined the Empire through conquest or diplomacy. Velthar walked to the center of the circle. His boots clicked on the crystal floor. The sound echoed in the vast chamber. Commander Velthar, spoke Counselor Zethrak, a being with purple skin and 6 eyes. You requested this emergency session. What news do you bring from the Outer Rim? Velthar activated his datapad. Holographic images appeared in the air around him. They showed damaged ships, burnt wreckage, and casualty reports. Honored counselors, Velthar began, his voice steady despite his fear. I come with a warning. We must not attack the humans. Several counselors made sounds of amusement. Counselor Mordek, whose species looked like giant insects, clicked his mandibles in what passed for laughter among his kind. Humans? Mordek said. The primitive species from the 3rd planet of that small yellow star? Commander, they barely have faster than light travel. Velthar changed the holographic display. It now showed a small blue and green planet surrounded by metal stations and ships. That is what we thought, Counselor. 3 weeks ago, I led a scouting mission to their outer colonies. We were to observe the human settlement called New Sol and determine the best way to integrate them into the Empire. The display changed again. Now it showed a space station orbiting a rocky planet. Ships moved around it in organized patterns. New Sol appeared to be a simple mining colony. 500,000 humans, minimal defenses. According to our intelligence, they had only 12 patrol ships to defend the entire system. Counselor, Yithiara, a tall being with silver skin, leaned forward. And yet you seem troubled, Commander. Surely such a small force posed no threat to your fleet. Velthar's secondary arms began to tremble. That is what I believed, Counselor. I sent 3 of my fastest ships to make contact. They were commanded by Captain Doyun of the Human Defense Force. The hologram now showed space battle footage. 3 small human ships faced off against much larger alien vessels. Watch carefully, counselors, Velthar said. This is what happened next. The human ships moved in ways that defied military logic. Instead of maintaining safe distances and exchanging long-range fire, they dove straight toward the alien ships. They twisted and spun, avoiding weapons fire that should have destroyed them. Their ships are inferior to ours in every way, Velthar continued. Weaker armor, slower engines, primitive weapons. But watch how they fight. One of the human ships took heavy damage. Its hull was breached and atmosphere was venting into space. Instead of retreating or asking for help, the ship accelerated toward the nearest alien vessel. No, whispered Counselor Lemtai, a floating jellyfish-like creature. They cannot mean to. The damaged human ship slammed into the alien cruiser at full speed. Both ships exploded in a ball of fire and metal. They called it ramming, Velthar said quietly. When I asked Captain Doyun why his pilot did such a thing, he said it was standard procedure. When a human ship is too damaged to fight effectively, the crew chooses to take an enemy ship with them. The council chamber fell silent. In 3,000 years of galactic civilization, no species had ever developed such tactics. When a ship was damaged, the crew surrendered or retreated. They did not deliberately destroy themselves. Surely this was desperation, said Counselor Mordek, a moment of madness brought on by fear. Velthar shook his head. That is what I thought, Counselor, so I observed them further. I watched their training exercises. I studied their military manuals that Captain Doyun freely shared with me. New images appeared in the hologram. Human soldiers in training, practicing combat, in various environments. Humans do not train to fight until they win, counselors. They train to fight until they die. Every human soldier learns that retreat is only acceptable if it serves a larger strategy. They have a saying, death before dishonor. Counselor Zethrak made a dismissive gesture. Empty words, Commander. All species have brave sayings. With respect, Counselor, these are not empty words. Velthar pulled up more data. Humans have been fighting wars on their home planet for their entire recorded history. Not small conflicts between clans or cities, but total wars involving entire continents. The hologram showed images from human history. Massive battles with millions of participants, cities reduced to rubble, weapons that could destroy entire planets. They developed weapons capable of ending all life on their world before they even left their home system. And they came close to using them, multiple times. Counselor Yathara studied the images with growing concern. How did their species survive? Such destructive tendencies? That is the terrifying part, Counselor, Velthar replied. They learned to control these weapons, but they never forgot how to make them. Every human colony has the knowledge and materials needed to create planet-killing weapons. They see it as insurance. The commander changed the display one final time. It showed a recording of his conversation with Captain Do-hyun. I asked Captain Do-hyun what humans would do if the Galactic Empire demanded their surrender. His response was educational. Captain Do-hyun's image appeared in the hologram. He was a young-looking human male with dark hair and calm eyes. When he spoke, his voice was steady and matter-of-fact. Commander Velthar, I appreciate your warning about your empire's intentions. But you should understand something about humans. We don't surrender. We don't retreat unless it's part of a larger plan to win. If your empire attacks us, we will fight until every last human is dead or your empire no longer exists. There is no middle ground. The recording continued with Velthar's voice asking, but surely your people value their lives. Would you really sacrifice everything for pride? Captain Do-hyun smiled in the recording. It was not a pleasant expression. Commander, humans didn't get to the stars by being reasonable. We got here by being too stubborn to give up and too creative in finding ways to kill things that threaten us. Your empire rules through fear and superior technology. But humans have been dealing with both of those things since we lived in caves. The hologram faded, leaving the council chamber in silence. Velthar looked around at each counselor. Honored ones, I have fought in 47 campaigns for the Empire. I have seen species with technology beyond our understanding. I have faced warriors who could kill a dozen soldiers with their bare hands. But I have never encountered anything as dangerous as a human who has decided to fight. Counselor Mordek clicked his mandibles dismissively. Commander, you seem to have developed an irrational fear of these primitives. One small colony cannot threaten an empire. With respect, Counselor, Velthar said. Captain Do-hyun told me that New Seoul is one of over 3,000 human colonies. Each one has similar defenses and similar attitudes, and they are all in contact with their home world, which has a population of 8 billion humans. The chamber fell silent again as the counselors absorbed this information. Furthermore, Velthar continued, humans do not fight like other species. When we conquer a world, the population submits and life continues under imperial rule. When humans fight, they fight to completely destroy their enemies. They have no concept of honorable defeat. Counselor Zethrak spoke slowly. What exactly are you recommending, Commander? Velthar straightened his forearms and looked directly at the lead counselor. I recommend that we classify human space as a forbidden zone. We should establish a boundary and never cross it. We should never give humans a reason to see us as a threat. That is absurd, snapped Counselor Lemtai. The Empire does not fear primitive species. Then the Empire will learn why it should, Velthar replied grimly. Counselors, I am not asking you to fear humans because they are strong. I am asking you to fear them because they are willing to die fighting, and they are very, very good at taking their enemies with them. 3 days after Commander Velthar's warning, the High Council made their decision. They would ignore his advice and proceed with standard imperial protocol. Ambassador Nari received her orders while reviewing diplomatic files in her quarters, aboard the flagship Eternal Harmony. Nari belonged to a species called the Kethamori, known throughout the galaxy for their diplomatic skills. Her people had successfully negotiated the peaceful integration of over 200 species into the Empire. She had personally handled first contact with 37 different civilizations, The assignment seemed routine: travel to the human home system, make formal contact with their government, and offer them membership in the Galactic Empire. If they refused, document their military capabilities and recommend appropriate pressure tactics. Nari studied the intelligence reports as her ship traveled through hyperspace toward the Sol system. Humans were indeed primitive by galactic standards. They had only achieved faster-than-light travel 50 years ago. Their ships used crude fusion engines instead of antimatter drives. Their weapons were simple projectile and energy systems. This should be straightforward, she told her aide, a young Kethmori named Talo. Humans appear to be a typical expanding species. They will likely welcome the protection and technology that Empire membership provides. When the Eternal Harmony dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system, Nari got her first surprise. Her ship's sensors immediately detected over 300 vessels moving throughout the system. That was far more than the intelligence reports had suggested. "Ambassador," called her sensor operator, "I'm reading multiple weapon signatures. The humans appear to have been expecting us." Before Nari could respond, her communications officer received an incoming transmission. "Unknown vessel, this is Admiral Jinwoo of the Terran Defense Force. Please state your intentions and prepare to be escorted to Earth orbit." Nari activated the communication system. "This is Ambassador Nari of the Galactic Empire. We come in peace to establish diplomatic relations with your species. Welcome to the Sol system, Ambassador Nari. Please follow the escort ships and do not deviate from the approved flight path. Any unauthorized movement will be considered hostile." 12 human ships approached the Eternal Harmony. They were much smaller than Nari's vessel, but they moved with precision and confidence. As they flew alongside her ship, Nari noticed something unusual about their design. "Talo," she said to her aide, "these ships look different from the ones in our intelligence files." Her aide studied the scanner readings. "Yes, Ambassador, these vessels appear to be newer designs, and their weapons are more advanced than we expected." The escort led them toward a massive space station orbiting Earth. As they approached, Nari saw hundreds more ships moving in organized patterns. Some were clearly military vessels, but others appeared to be converted civilian ships with weapon modifications. "How many ships do these humans have?" she wondered aloud. Admiral Jinwoo met them at the docking bay of the station. He was a middle-aged human with graying hair and steady eyes. He wore a dark blue uniform with various symbols that Nari assumed indicated rank and service. "Ambassador Nari," Admiral Jinwoo said with a formal bow. "Welcome to Terra Station. I will escort you to the diplomatic meeting." As they walked through the station's corridors, Nari observed the human crew members. They moved with military efficiency, but she noticed something strange. Many of them wore civilian clothes under their duty vests. "Admiral," she said, "are these all military personnel?" Jinwoo smiled. "In a sense, yes. All adult humans receive basic military training. In times of crisis, our entire population can serve in defense roles." Nari made a mental note of this information. Most species had separate military and civilian populations. The idea of an entire species trained for war was concerning. They entered a large conference room where several humans waited. Admiral Jinwoo introduced them one by one. "This is Dr. Minji of the Earth Historical Institute, General Taman of Strategic Planning, Engineer Yuna of Ship Design, and Dr. Hayon of Xenobiology." Nari noticed that each human specialist wore both scientific and military insignia. Again, this was unusual. Most species kept their scholars and soldiers separate. "Ambassador Nari," Dr. Minji said, "we're honored by your visit. We've been expecting contact with galactic civilization for quite some time." "You were expecting us?" Nari asked. General Taman nodded. "We've been monitoring hyperspace disturbances for decades. We knew that other species existed and that they would eventually find us. We've been preparing." "Preparing how?" Nari inquired. Engineer Yuna activated a holographic display that showed ship designs and weapon systems. "We've been developing technology and strategies based on what we might face. We've also been studying galactic history through radio intercepts and deep space observation." Nari was surprised. You've been spying on galactic civilizations? Not spying, Dr. Hayon corrected. Learning. We wanted to understand how other species interact before making contact. We've learned about the Galactic Empire's expansion methods. The room fell silent. Nari realized that these humans knew exactly why she was here. I see, she said carefully. Then you understand that the Empire offers membership to promising species. We provide protection, technology, and access to galactic trade networks. In exchange for what? Asked General Taman. Integration into Imperial society. Acceptance of Imperial law and authority. Contribution to Imperial defense forces. The humans exchanged glances. Dr. Minji spoke first. Ambassador, we appreciate the offer, but humans have some cultural differences that might make integration difficult. Such as? We don't really do the whole submission thing, said Engineer Yuna, bluntly. Humans have a long history of resisting authority that we don't choose for ourselves. Admiral Jinwu leaned forward. Ambassador, could you tell us what happens to species that decline membership in the Empire? Nari hesitated. This was not how these meetings usually went. Most species were eager to join the Empire after learning about its benefits. Well, she said slowly, the Empire sometimes needs to use economic pressure or military demonstrations to help species understand the advantages of membership. Ah, said Dr. Minji. So you conquer them. The Empire prefers the term forced integration, Nari replied. It's for the greater good of galactic civilization. General Taman made notes on a datapad. And how many species have been integrated in this manner? Several hundred over the past 3,000 years. The humans exchanged more glances. Dr. Hayon spoke up. Ambassador, what typically happens during these forced integrations? Do the conquered species resist? Initially, yes, but resistance usually ends quickly once the population realizes that fighting is futile. Most species accept defeat gracefully and adapt to Imperial rule. Interesting, said Dr. Minji. Humans have a different approach to conflict resolution. Oh? Nari asked. We don't really resolve conflicts, Dr. Minji explained with a slight smile. We just get really good at them. Admiral Jinwu stood up. Ambassador Nari, I think we need to be clear about something. Humans have studied your empire's history. We know about the conquests, the forced integrations, and the species that have disappeared entirely. Those species chose to fight rather than submit, Nari said defensively. Exactly, said General Taman. And now you understand our problem. Humans don't submit. It's not in our nature. Engineer Yuna activated another holographic display. This one showed human military installations throughout the Sol system and beyond. We've been preparing for this conversation for 50 years, Ambassador. We've built defenses, trained our population, and developed weapons specifically designed to fight a technologically superior enemy. Dr. Hayon added, We've also studied the biology and psychology of various galactic species. We know how to fight each one effectively. Nari felt a chill run through her body. Are you threatening the Empire? Not at all, Admiral Jinwu said, calmly. We're simply explaining our position. Humans would prefer to remain independent. We have no desire for conflict with the Empire. But if conflict comes to us, General Taman continued, we will respond in the most effective manner possible. Dr. Minji pulled up historical records on her datapad. Ambassador, has your empire ever fought a species that had experience with total warfare? Total warfare? Complete destruction of the enemy's ability and will to fight. Elimination of their military, government, infrastructure, and if necessary, their entire population. Nari's translator struggled with the concept. Surely you don't mean genocide? Sometimes, Dr. Minji said matter-of-factly. Humans have fought wars of extinction before, usually against other humans, but we've learned to apply those lessons to any threat. Engineer Yuna brought up more displays showing human weapons development. We've designed these specifically for fighting galactic empires, stealth ships for hitting supply lines, planet-killer weapons for destroying military worlds, biological weapons tailored to different alien species. "This is monstrous," Nari whispered. "This is human," Admiral Jinwoo corrected. "We don't fight wars to win territory or gain resources. We fight wars to eliminate threats." Permanently, Dr. Haon stood up and approached Nari. "Ambassador, we're not trying to frighten you. We're trying to help you understand what will happen if your empire forces us to fight." The High Council chamber buzzed with angry voices. Ambassador Nari had delivered her report 3 days ago, and the councilors were still debating the appropriate response. The data chip containing human military history sat on the central table, its contents having deeply disturbed several council members. "This is intolerable," declared Councilor Mordek, his insect-like mandibles clicking rapidly. "No primitive species has ever dared to threaten the Empire with such detailed violence." Councilor Zethrak studied the holographic displays showing human weapon designs. "Their creativity and methods of destruction is concerning. I have never seen such systematic approaches to warfare." "They are bluffing," insisted Councilor Lemtai. "No species would actually implement such extreme measures. They are trying to frighten us into leaving them alone." General Krixtel stood at attention before the council. He was a massive being from a warrior species, with thick armor plating and natural weapons that could cut through steel. He had commanded Imperial forces for 2 centuries and had never lost a battle. "Councilors," he said in his deep, rumbling voice, "I request permission to demonstrate Imperial power to these humans. A limited military action against one of their smaller colonies will show them the futility of resistance." Councilor Yathara raised a slender silver hand. "General, both Commander Velthar and Ambassador Nari have warned against military action. Perhaps we should consider their advice." "With respect, Councilor," General Krixtel replied, "fear makes even experienced officers see threats where none exist. These humans have never faced the full might of Imperial technology. Once they witness our true capabilities, they will surrender like all the others." Councilor Mordek supported the general. "A demonstration is precisely what we need. Choose a small isolated human colony. Destroy their defenses, accept their surrender, and use them as an example to convince the others." The council voted. Despite the warnings, they authorized General Krixtel to conduct a limited demonstration of Imperial power against a human outpost. General Krixtel chose his target carefully. Kepler Station was a mining operation in a remote system, far from the main human colonies. According to intelligence reports, it had a population of only 50,000 humans and minimal defenses. The perfect target for a demonstration. Krixtel assembled a demonstration fleet of 20 ships, including his flagship dreadnought Iron Fist. It was massive overkill for such a small target. But that was the point. The humans would see the fleet, realize they had no chance of victory, and surrender immediately. The fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler system. Immediately, their sensors detected the mining station orbiting a large asteroid. Several smaller ships moved around it, collecting ore and processing materials. "Attention Kepler Station," General Krixtel broadcast on all frequencies. "This is General Krixtel of the Galactic Empire. You are ordered to surrender immediately. Comply, and you will be treated fairly under Imperial law." The response came from Engineer Hayek, the station commander. His voice was calm and professional. "General Krixtel, this is Engineer Hayek of Kepler Station. We are Terran citizens operating under the authority of the Earth government. We do not recognize Imperial authority, and we will not surrender." Krixtel was not surprised by this initial refusal. Many species made such statements before seeing Imperial firepower. "Engineer Hayek, you have 1 hour to reconsider. Look at your sensors. Count my ships. You have a single patrol vessel and a mining station. I have 20 warships. Be reasonable." "General," came Hayek's reply, "I've looked at your ships. Very impressive. But you should look more carefully at ours." Krixtel ordered a detailed scan of the human installations. What he saw confused him. The mining station was larger than expected, with unusual energy readings. The ore processing ships showed strange modifications, and there were more ships in the system than intelligence had reported. "Engineer Hayek," Krixtel said, "I count 1 patrol ship and several mining vessels. hardly a match for Imperial warships. General, you're not looking hard enough. Let me help you. Suddenly, what Crixtel had thought were asteroids began moving. They weren't rocks at all, but camouflaged ships. The mining vessels deployed weapon systems that had been hidden inside their cargo bays. The station itself unfolded like a flower, revealing defensive platforms and missile launchers. "What is this?" Crixtel demanded. Lieutenant Sohi's voice came over the communication system. She commanded the patrol ship that Crixtel had dismissed as harmless. "General, meet the Kepler Defense Force. Every mining ship here is also a reserve. Military vessel. Every miner is also a trained soldier. Every piece of equipment has a secondary function as a weapon." Engineer Hayek's voice returned. "General, you should know that Kepler Station is operating under Protocol Thermopylae. That means we will hold this position until every human here is dead, or you retreat." "Thermopylae?" Crixtel asked. "An ancient human battle," Hayek explained. "A small force held a strategic position against a much larger army. They fought to the last man, but they made the enemy pay such a high price that it changed the course of the war." Crixtel studied his tactical display. What had seemed like an easy target now showed dozens of weapon platforms and defensive positions, but he still had overwhelming superiority in numbers and firepower. "Engineer Hayek, even with these preparations, you cannot win. Surrender now, and I will spare your people." "General," came the reply, "humans don't surrender. We adapt, we overcome, we endure. If you want Kepler Station, come and take it." The battle began with Crixtel's ships advancing on the station. He expected the humans to use long-range weapons and defensive tactics, trying to hold out as long as possible before inevitable defeat. Instead, the humans attacked. Lieutenant Sohi's patrol ship didn't wait for the Imperial fleet to get into optimal firing position. It accelerated directly toward the nearest enemy vessel, firing as it approached. When the ship took damage, instead of retreating, it continued its attack run. "They're going to ram us," shouted the captain of the Imperial cruiser Star Crusher. The human ship slammed into the cruiser's hull, but not before launching all of its missiles at point-blank range. Both ships exploded, but the Imperial vessel was much larger and had a crew of thousands. "Impossible," Crixtel muttered. "They sacrificed an entire ship to destroy one of ours." Engineer Hayek's voice came over the communication system. "General, that's what we call trading up. We'll gladly trade one of our ships for one of yours all day long." The mining ships began their own attacks. They moved like military vessels, but fought with industrial equipment. Crixtel watched in horror as a human ore hauler used its mining laser to cut through an Imperial destroyer's armor, then rammed its cargo hold full of explosive mining charges into the breach. "They're using industrial equipment as weapons," his tactical officer reported. "All ships maintain distance and use long-range weapons only," Crixtel ordered. But the humans had prepared for that too. The asteroids around the station weren't just camouflaged ships. Some of them were loaded with kinetic weapons that launched chunks of rock at incredible speeds. Others had been hollowed out and filled with nuclear charges. "General," his sensor operator called out, "I'm reading multiple missile launches from the station." "Shoot them down," Crixtel ordered. "Sir, these aren't normal missiles. They're not showing up on our targeting systems. The human missiles were simple kinetic projectiles, chunks of metal accelerated to high speeds. They had no engines, no guidance systems, and no energy signatures. Imperial defensive systems were designed to stop sophisticated weapons, not simple rocks moving very fast. 3 Imperial ships took hits from the kinetic weapons. Their shields, designed to stop energy weapons and smart missiles, were useless against chunks of metal moving at significant fractions of light speed. "How are they targeting us without guidance systems?" Crixtel demanded. Engineer Hayek answered over the communication channel. "General, humans have been throwing rocks at enemies for thousands of years. We've gotten very good at it." The battle continued for hours. Every time Crixtel's forces destroyed a human position, 2 more appeared. The humans had hidden weapons throughout the asteroid field. Worse, they kept using tactics that no civilized species would consider. When a human ship was disabled, its crew would detonate the reactor, creating an explosion that damaged nearby Imperial vessels. When a defensive platform was overrun, the humans would ram it into an enemy ship before it could be captured. "They're fighting like mad creatures," his tactical officer observed. "They show no regard for their own lives." "No," Crixtel realized, grimly. "They're fighting like they have nothing to lose. This isn't desperation. This is doctrine." After 12 hours of combat, Crixtel had lost 6 ships and damaged 8 others. The humans had lost most of their vessels, but Kepler Station still held. Worse, his remaining ships were running low on ammunition and energy. "General," Engineer Hyok transmitted, "how's your demonstration going?" "You cannot win this battle," Crixtel replied. "Maybe not," Hyok agreed. "But we're making you pay for every meter. And General, you should know that everything that's happened here is being broadcast to every human colony in this sector. They're all watching how we fight, and they're all learning how to kill your ships." News of the Kepler Station battle spread through human space faster than Imperial intelligence could track it. Within hours, every human colony, ship, and outpost had received detailed tactical analysis of the engagement. What the Galactic Empire had intended as a demonstration of power became a training manual for human resistance. Captain Wu Jin sat in the command chair of the reconnaissance vessel Indomitable, studying the battle data for the 100th time. His ship was one of the newer human designs, built specifically for deep space operations behind enemy lines. It was small, fast, and nearly invisible to most sensor systems. "Captain," his communications officer called out, "we're receiving new orders from Terra Command." Wu Jin read the message on his personal display. The orders were simple and direct. "Implement Ghost Protocol. Target Imperial supply lines. Deny the enemy safe passage through human space." "Helm," Wu Jin said. "Set. Course for the Rigel sector. Intelligence reports a major Imperial convoy passing through there in 6 hours." His navigator, Engineer Yuna, plotted the course. "Captain, that convoy has 12 escort ships. We're just one vessel." "That's why we're not going to fight them," Wu Jin replied. "We're going to hunt them." The Indomitable dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Rigel system, hidden among a field of cosmic debris. Wu Jin had chosen this position carefully. The Imperial convoy would pass close enough for his ship to scan them, but far enough away to avoid detection. "There," his sensor operator whispered, pointing at the tactical display. 12 warships, escorting 4 supply vessels. Wu Jin studied the convoy's formation. The Imperial ships moved in a standard protective pattern, with the escorts surrounding the supply ships. It was textbook Galactic naval doctrine, designed to protect against conventional attacks. "Yuna," he said, "how long until they reach the hyperspace jump point?" 43 minutes, Captain." Wu Jin activated the ship's communication system and opened a channel to Terra Command. "Command, this is Indomitable. Imperial convoy proceeding as expected. Beginning Ghost Protocol operation." The response came immediately. "Understood, Indomitable. Remember, we're not trying to destroy the entire convoy. We want them to know they're being hunted." Ghost Protocol was a new type of warfare that humans had developed specifically for fighting the Empire. Instead of engaging in large fleet battles, single human ships would stalk Imperial forces, striking at weak points and disappearing before retaliation was possible. "All stations prepare for stealth approach," Wu Jin ordered. The Indomitable activated its advanced stealth systems. The ship's hull became a perfect black surface that absorbed almost all electromagnetic radiation. Its engines switched to a special low-emission mode that reduced their energy signature to nearly zero. Moving carefully through the debris field, the human ship approached the Imperial convoy. Wu Jin watched the escort ship's sensor sweeps pass over his vessel without detecting it. "We're in position," his weapons officer reported. "Target selected." Wu Jin looked at the tactical display. One of the supply ships had moved slightly out of formation, creating a small gap in the escort coverage. "Fire," he ordered. The Indomitable launched a single torpedo, then immediately began moving to a new position. The weapon was another human. Innovation. A kinetic projectile with no energy signature, no guidance system, and no way for enemy sensors to track it. The torpedo struck the supply ship's engine section. The explosion was relatively small, but it disabled the vessel's propulsion system. Imperial Convoy, this is Captain Wu Jin of the Terran Defense Force. He broadcast on all frequencies. You are in human space without permission. Leave immediately, or we will continue to disable your ships. The escort commander's response was immediate and angry. Unknown vessel, show yourself and surrender. You are outnumbered, 12-1. 12-1 are good odds, Wu Jin replied. For us. The Imperial ships began scanning frantically for the human vessel, but the Indomitable had already moved to a new hiding spot among the debris. Wu Jin watched as the escorts spread out, trying to find his ship. Captain, Yuna said quietly. They're moving away from the supply ships. Exactly what we want, Wu Jin replied. Fire on target 2. Another kinetic torpedo launched from the hidden human ship. This one struck a second supply vessel, disabling its communications array. The Imperial convoy was now partially blind and partially crippled. Where are they? The escort commander demanded over the radio. How can one ship hide from our entire fleet? Wu Jin opened the communication channel again. Commander, you're looking for us with the wrong tools. Your sensors are designed to detect energy signatures and metal hulls, but space is full of rocks, and rocks don't show up on military scanners. To demonstrate his point, Wu Jin had his crew launch several chunks of debris toward the Imperial formation. The escort ship's defensive systems immediately targeted what they thought were incoming missiles, wasting ammunition on harmless rocks. Your defensive systems are excellent for fighting other galactic species, Wu Jin continued. But humans don't fight like other species. We use simple weapons that your advanced technology can't detect. The escort commander was becoming desperate. All ships, full sensor sweep. Find that vessel. But the human ship had already moved again. Wu Jin positioned the Indomitable behind a large asteroid, using its gravitational field to mask his ship's minimal energy signature. Target 3, he ordered. The third torpedo disabled the convoy's command ship's weapons array. Now the Imperial force was partially crippled, partially blind, and partially defenseless. This is impossible, the escort commander transmitted. One ship cannot defeat an entire convoy. We're not trying to defeat you, Wu Jin replied. We're trying to teach you something. Every time you enter human space, this will happen. We will hunt you, disable your ships, and make you wish you had stayed home. The fourth torpedo struck the last supply ship, destroying its cargo bay. Food, medicine, and equipment meant for Imperial outposts scattered into space. Commander, Wu Jin said, your convoy is now useless. Your supply ships are disabled, your escorts are confused, and you're still no closer to finding us. This is what every Imperial force will face in human space. The escort commander's response was filled with frustration. Show yourself and fight honorably. Wu Jin laughed. Commander, humans don't fight honorably. We fight to win. Honor is something you worry about after your enemies are dead. While the Imperial ships continued their futile search, Wu Jin received another transmission from Terra Command. Indomitable, this is Command. We're receiving reports of similar operations throughout human space. Ghost Protocol is working perfectly. Wu Jin smiled. The Indomitable was just one of hundreds of human ships conducting similar operations. Throughout the galaxy, Imperial convoys and patrols were being stalked by invisible human vessels. Command, he replied. The Empire's forces are not prepared for this type of warfare. They expect formal battles with clear rules. We're giving them guerrilla warfare with no rules at all. On Earth, General Taman was coordinating the largest military mobilization in human history. The Battle of Kepler Station had shown that the Empire would not leave humanity alone. Now humans were preparing for total war. Status report, he called out to his staff officers. All colonies have implemented defensive protocols, reported Colonel Minho. Every civilian has been trained in basic combat and sabotage techniques. Every ship has been modified for military use. Weapon production is ahead of schedule, added Engineer Yuna, who had been transferred from the Indomitable to oversee military manufacturing. We're producing kinetic weapons, stealth systems, and biological agents at maximum capacity. Dr. Heian approached the general with a datapad. Sir, I've completed the analysis of Imperial biological systems. We now have weapons specifically designed to affect each major species in the Empire. General Taman studied the information. These weapons are quite thorough. Yes, sir, Dr. Hayon replied. Humans have extensive experience with biological warfare. We've simply adapted our knowledge to alien physiology. The general turned to his intelligence officer. What's the status of our deep space reconnaissance? Sir, we have ships monitoring every major Imperial installation within 50 light years. We know their fleet positions, supply routes, and communication patterns. And they still don't know we're watching them? No, sir. Ghost Protocol is working perfectly. Imperial forces are reporting phantom contacts and mysterious equipment failures throughout their territory. General Taman nodded with satisfaction. The Empire thought they were dealing with a primitive species that could be easily conquered. Instead, they've awakened a military culture that has been perfecting warfare for thousands of years. Back in space, Captain Wu Jin was preparing to leave the Rigel system. The Imperial convoy was still searching for his ship, their efforts becoming increasingly frantic. Captain, his communications officer said, we're receiving a transmission from the escort commander. Put it through, Wu Jin ordered. Unknown human vessel, the Imperial commander said. What do you want? Why are you attacking us? Wu Jin considered his response carefully. Commander, we want you to leave human space and never come back. We want your empire to understand that humans are not a species you can conquer or intimidate. The High Council chamber had become a place of fear. What had begun as a simple expansion into human space had turned into the Empire's worst nightmare. Reports flooded in daily of missing ships, failed convoys, and mysterious attacks throughout Imperial territory. Councillor Zethrak studied the latest intelligence reports with growing horror. 73 ships lost in the past month. 200 supply convoys attacked. 47 outposts reporting equipment failures and sabotage. How is this possible? Demanded Councillor Mordek. We are fighting one primitive species. How? Can they be everywhere at once? General Krixtel, his armor now bearing scars from recent battles, stood before the council with his head bowed. Councillors, we are not fighting one species. We are fighting a military culture that has spent its entire existence perfecting the art of war. Explain, ordered Councillor Yathara. Humans don't just have soldiers, Krixtel said. Every human is a potential soldier. Their miners become saboteurs. Their cargo ships become warships. Their scientists develop weapons. Their children learn tactics. On Terra, Admiral Minho was coordinating the largest military operation in human history. The Ghost Protocol had bought them time to prepare, but now humans were ready to take the war directly to the Empire. Status report, Admiral Minho called out in the command center. All fleets are in position, reported Captain Do Hyun, now promoted to fleet command. We have ships stationed throughout Imperial space ready to strike. Dr. Seojin approached the Easy Saya Admiral with exciting news. Sir, we've successfully reverse-engineered Imperial hyperspace technology. Our new drives are 30% faster than theirs. Excellent, Admiral Minho replied. How many ships have been upgraded? The entire deep strike fleet, sir. We can now appear anywhere in Imperial space faster than they can respond. Engineer Yuna activated a massive holographic display showing the entire galaxy. Red dots marked Imperial installations, while blue dots showed human positions. Admiral, she said, we're ready to begin Operation Checkmate. Operation Checkmate was humanity's plan to end the war permanently. Instead of continuing defensive operations, humans would strike at the heart of the Empire itself. All ships, Admiral Minho broadcast, execute Operation Checkmate. Show the Empire what happens when they threaten humanity. Across the galaxy, human ships emerged from hyperspace near major Imperial installations. But these weren't the small stealth ships that had been conducting Ghost Protocol operations. These were full warships armed with weapons specifically designed to fight galactic empires. At the Imperial naval base of Korath Prime, Admiral Zexthon was reviewing casualty reports when his sensors detected multiple hyperspace signatures. Sir? His sensor operator called out. 27 ships just appeared in our system. What ships? Zexthon demanded. We weren't expecting any arrivals. They're human ships, sir, and they're not responding to our hails. Zexthon looked at his tactical display in disbelief. The human fleet was moving in perfect formation toward his base. These weren't the small raiders that had been harassing Imperial convoys. These were full-sized warships. All ships prepare for battle, he ordered. How did they get past our sensor networks? His communications officer received an incoming transmission. Sir, the human fleet commander is requesting to speak with you. Put him through, Zexthon ordered. Captain Wu Jin's face appeared on the main screen. He looked calm and professional, as if conducting a routine military operation. Admiral Zexthon, he said, I am Captain Wu Jin of the Terran Defense Force. You are ordered to surrender your base immediately. Surrender? Zexthon laughed. Captain, I have 40 ships and a fortified base. You have 27 ships. You are outnumbered. Admiral, Wu Jin replied, you are counting ships. We are counting targets. The human fleet opened fire with weapons that Admiral Zexthon had never seen before. Instead of energy beams or guided missiles, they used kinetic projectiles that moved too fast for defensive systems to intercept. Impossible, Zexthon muttered as he watched his ship's shields fail against the human weapons. Our shields should stop any projectile. Your shields are designed to stop energy weapons, came Wu Jin's voice over the communication channel. But humans have been throwing rocks at enemies since we lived in caves. We've just gotten very good at throwing very fast rocks. The battle was unlike anything in galactic military history. The human ships moved in patterns that violated conventional tactical doctrine. When damaged, instead of retreating, they pressed their attacks even harder. They're fighting like mad creatures, Zexthon's tactical officer observed. No, Zexthon realized. They're fighting like they have nothing to lose. This isn't a military operation for them. This is survival. Within hours, the Imperial base was destroyed. But the humans didn't stop there. As Zexthon's surviving ships tried to escape, human vessels pursued them relentlessly. Captain Wu Jin, Zexthon transmitted desperately, we surrender. Accept our surrender. Admiral, came Wu Jin's reply. Humans don't accept surrenders from species that threaten our existence. You came to our space. You attacked our people. Now we finish this. Similar battles were taking place throughout Imperial space. At Nexus Prime itself, the Imperial capital, the High Council watched in horror as human fleets appeared in their home system. This is impossible, whispered Counselor Lemtai. How did they reach our capital so quickly? Commander Velthar, now serving as military advisor to the Council, had the answer. Counselors, humans have been preparing for this war since we first contacted them. They've been building ships, studying our technology, and positioning forces throughout our territory. But our intelligence networks should have detected such preparations, protested Counselor Mordek. Humans don't use intelligence networks the way we do, Velthar explained. Every human civilian is a potential spy. Every human trader is a reconnaissance agent. Every human colony is a military base. Admiral Minho's flagship, the massive dreadnought Terra's Vengeance, approached Nexus Prime. The ship was larger than anything in the Imperial fleet, built specifically to fight this war. High Council of the Galactic Empire, Admiral Minho broadcast. On all frequencies, this is Admiral Minho of the Terran Defense Force. You are ordered to surrender unconditionally. Counselor Zethrak activated the Council's communication system. Admiral Minho, we are willing to negotiate. Perhaps we can reach an understanding. The time for negotiation ended when you attacked Kepler Station, Admiral Minho replied. Humans offered you peace. You chose war. Now you will face the consequences. But surely reasonable beings can find a peaceful solution, Counselor Yathara pleaded. Counselor, Admiral Minho said, humans tried to be reasonable. We offered to leave each other alone. Your empire chose to force the issue. Now you will learn why that was a mistake. The human fleet began their assault on Nexus Prime's defenses, but this wasn't a battle to capture the planet. It was a demonstration of humanity's ability to destroy the Empire's center of power. Admiral, Counselor Zethrak transmitted desperately. What do you want from us? We want you to understand something very clearly, Admiral Minho replied. Humans are not a species you can conquer. We are not a species you can intimidate. We are not a species you can integrate into your empire. Then what are you? Asked Counselor Mordek. We are the species that ends empires, Admiral Minho said simply. Dr. Seojin, now aboard the flagship as scientific advisor, activated the ship's ultimate weapon. It was a device that humans had hoped never to use. A planet killer based on improved Imperial technology. Counselors, Admiral Minho continued, this weapon can destroy your entire planet. We have similar weapons aimed at every major Imperial world. You have one choice: complete withdrawal from human space and a formal treaty recognizing human independence. And if we refuse? Counselor Lem Tai asked weakly. Then we will do what humans have always done to existential threats, Admiral Minho replied. We will eliminate them completely. The High Council went silent as they absorbed the implications. Commander Velthar stepped forward to address them. Counselors, I tried to warn you months ago. Humans are not like other species. They don't fight for territory or resources. They fight for survival. And when they fight for survival, they are willing to destroy everything rather than accept defeat. But surely they wouldn't commit genocide, Counselor Yathara said hopefully. Counselors, Velthar replied sadly, humans have committed genocide before, against other humans. If they're willing to exterminate their own species when threatened, what do you think they'll do to aliens who attack them? Admiral Minho's voice returned over the communication system. Counselors, you have 1 hour to decide. Surrender completely, or we will end your empire today. The council voted quickly and unanimously. They had no choice. Admiral Minho, Counselor Zethrak transmitted, the Galactic Empire formally surrenders. We agree to your terms. Very good, Admiral Minho replied. Human space is now off-limits to all Imperial ships. Any vessel that enters our territory will be destroyed without warning. Any species that threatens humanity will face the same fate as your empire. As the human fleets withdrew from Imperial space, they left behind a galaxy, forever changed. The Galactic Empire still existed, but it was a shadow of its former self.